It is my privilege and joy that we can continue our Bible study about the present truth in the book of Deuteronomy. The subtitle that we have today is, "For what nation is there so great?" We all have understood that we are in a battle that is in our mind, and that battle is to have a discernment between what is the truth and what is a lie. And for this we need a scale, the law of nature, in which everything takes to give, and the lie is just a change of that order that says give to take. The lie is leaving away a part of the truth becomes a lie. The lie is when something is presented and is unbalanced, and the lie is that what has in self contradiction. In order to make a distinction between them, we need the law, we need to know the human nature and the basic needs of the human being. We have seen in our last presentation that a lie is an incorrect information, and its origin is in Lucifer, the devil. And I want to look once again to that beautiful Bible verse in John 8:44, in which Christ explains to us the origin of lie. "Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him." So it's an interesting thing. He abode not in the truth. He was in the truth when he was created. But then he did not abide in that, but he started to become a lie in himself, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own. That is, he is the origin of it. For he is a liar and the father of it. Now, in our last presentation, we have seen that God created the Spirit to govern itself only. That there should be no government from outside. Yes, the Spirit is dependent, but the government comes just from inside out. So when Lucifer was in himself tempted, there's no reason for, because outside there was no reason for, why he should wanted to become God. But he started to want to become like that. But God explained to him there is a border between cause and effect. No one can pass that. You are an effect. You never can become a cause. But God could not change Lucifer's mind, because he made him to govern himself. And so when he continued in his irrational thinking, he went step by step, and God could not stop this process. Now, of course, he could have stopped it as an intervention of make his, how to say, to destroy his spirit, or to make his spirit impossible to move, because everything is dependent on God. But that would be against God's way to be, because he made him with reason, and so he should govern himself correctly. And if he would go in a wrong way, God would allow that, because he would not go against his own way of creating things. He endowed him with reason. There was no way how Lucifer could go against his reason. How he broke his spirit is an inexplainable mystery. So it is not because he had a free will, because God gave him to choose between him and someone else. No. That's such an erroneous theory that is out there in the world. It is because he had to govern himself. And he deceived himself. So his will became in prison. He is not free anymore. Like everyone has no free will who is in a self-deception. So it's not because of the free will, it's because of our own government and because of the inexplainable self-deception that in Lucifer lie started. And the lie is something very irrational. It's totally irrational. Reason would discard any lie if we would take the law and measure it. Reason goes against. That's why it says irrational. It makes no sense that a being that is a created being believes it is a God. So the lie, and the lie is the root of all evil. Their murder came out, and every evil came out. Because a spirit can only live by truth or by the lie. And since from outside all information was correct, Lucifer could only in himself not create, but so to say, come into this self-deception and bring a lie into the universe. So it comes out of him. He's the father of it. But now he could not seduce the angels, except the angels would also deceive themselves in themselves. He only could tempt them from outside, and we know that the 2/3 were attracted, but when God explained it to that 1/3, they corrected their thinking and said, okay, that's impossible. But the 1/3 followed Lucifer and deceived themselves as well. Now, then Lucifer came to our parents, and they could only listen to him because they deceived themselves. Now, we have today the word, and we said a lie is also a false interpretation of truth. I mean, a misinterpretation of a word, sentence, image, parable, its origin is in the false identity of man. Now, God gives us his word, but it doesn't help us at all because we judge it with the wrong measurement. If the scale for measuring any information is a lie, then how can ever a truth come out? So if the lie in us hears the truth, it can still not work through it correctly. It will misrepresent it. All that information that needs to be believed, that needs to be evaluated by us, can never be evaluated correctly. It always will become out a lie. If you take truth through a lie, it will become a lie. Automatically. There's no way out. This is why the Bible and Apostle Paul describes in 1 Corinthians chapter 2 from verse 11 and says, "For what man knoweth the things of man save the spirit of man which is in him? Even so the things of God knoweth no man but the Spirit of God. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit which is of God, that we might know the things that are freely given to us of God. Which things also we speak, not in the words which man's wisdom teaches, but which the Holy Ghost teaches, comparing spiritual things with spiritual." Now, spiritual things are those that we need to understand for our mind, for our spirit, in order to live and exist. That is that information that we need to interpret. Now, he says here, this can be only done if we have in us the right identity. Because it says in the next verse, but the natural man, this is the natural man, receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him. You see why the Bible is foolishness unto the person that has a sinful nature? That speaks or reads this book through the sinful nature. You can read it from the beginning to the end. You can even learn it by heart. It still is unavailable for you. Because this natural heart, this self-deception in us, doesn't allow us to perceive the things of the Spirit of God. We will consider them foolishness. Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. This is why the Bible is not explainable. This is why people are so confused when they read the Bible. This is why many have so different contradicting ideas. Because if you take the truth and tries to explain it through the lie, it always will become a lie. So it's only the grace of God that makes it possible that a person born in this natural way to still perceive something spiritual. But it must first, and that is the entering wedge for the human mind that God still has, and grace also provided it, that you represent to him the things that are self-evident. You see, when I speak to my patients, they all come with this to me. I know when I will start with the Bible, even if I bring them the best explanation, they still will interpret it incorrectly. So that would be no avail. I would just lose time. This is why God taught me to bring to the natural mind those things that the natural mind can understand, and that is the self-evident things. Paul, I'm so glad that he made it the same way. If you read Romans 1 and 2, you will find the same reasoning, that God even reaches to everyone by those things that are self-evident. Like the laws of nature, there is no way to not see them. You can be blind, you can put them aside, but they are self-evident. The nature of man is self-evident. The needs of man are self-evident. So, through the explanation of these things, God has an entering wedge to the human being. And this is what he taught me in my practice. You see, when people come to me, and just recently a lady called me and said, I believe that someone is playing with my mind. And she told me about the narcissists and how people are being manipulative, and also believe the devil can play with our minds. Now this faith is very, I have to say, most people believe it. But they only believe it because they don't know how a spirit functions. But a spirit, and you don't need to be in the truth to know that the spirit is a closed entity that can only govern itself from inside out. And it can at no point anyone play with your mind except you believe that. Except you believe that someone can manipulate you. The narcissist can bring over you, I don't know what powers. No, friends. There is no way of that. If I have a husband or a wife that is manipulative, if you're not dependent spiritually on them, how much can they manipulate you? The only possibility is because I believe I'm dependent on the other one, and I believe that he has more power than me, and I'm the poor victim of it. That brings me into trouble. So do you think it's easy to explain to my patients that the problem they have is just their inside, not the outside? It's not their husband, it's not their wife, it's not the devil, it's just the way they think. That's the matter. Nothing else. Because if inside they would be in the truth, they would react like Jesus to any lie that knocks at the door. Jesus said, there comes the ruler of this world, and he findeth nothing in me. You see, we only follow the devil. We follow the narcissist. We follow the manipulative person because we have the lie in us that makes us to follow them. So that's why we need to understand. We need to change that before we can understand the spiritual things. So, coming to our object lesson, the people of Israel in the desert. Before they entered, they got once again the law by Moses to remember it. And he ends with the word that says, "Oh, that there were such a heart in them, that they would fear me and keep all my commandments always, that it might be well with them and with their children forever." That's the heart of God, does it? They would fear me. And we have understood what fear means. We know it's to be dependent on him. But this is an inside act. It comes from our heart to obey or not obey. To be dependent or not is our action, not his. And he says, oh, if they would just... But what is the condition that they may do it? Because only 40 days, not even 40 days after he came down on Mount Sinai, when they saw that, they made a golden calf. And that golden calf proves that even though they were circumcised at the foreskin before they got out of Egypt, they were not circumcised in their hearts. How could they not? Just a few days, it was not a year, it was not a month. They see the great display, they hear the voice of God, and then make the golden calf and say, that's our God. Is that explainable? I mean, it's not explainable. But it's explainable if you understand the lie that is so contradictory, that says, on the one hand, you believe yourself you're God, but since it's unconscious, you must make yourself a God, a visible one, and to make party around it. So the golden calf proves, and most of them were not circumcised in their hearts. They did not understand that they have an inside issue. When they heard the voice of God, did he not make clear unto them who he is and who they are? Did he not make clear who is God and who am I? Did he not make clear that he is the creator and through Adam he all created us? And did he not show himself as the Savior who brought us out of Egypt and made us his children? Was he not clear on that? Well, yes, he was. But is it clear for us today? Or is it not? Does the law clearly show us who is God and who we are? It should. So what is the most decisive thing in one's life? There are two questions. Who is God and who am I? Am I a God or I am a child of God? That's the whole difference. But that is an inside thing. You see, when Nicodemus came to Jesus, was he a good man? Yes, he was. Was Paul a good man? Yes, he said, I was blameless. Yes, he persecuted the Christians, but he still was convinced he did a good job for God. Was the rich young ruler a good man? Just to say a few ones? Yes, he was. He might have given some of his part. If Jesus would have said, well, give 10% to the poor, he might have said, oh, very well, I give that, that's fine. But were they saved? You see, out of this nature, through grace, because God keeps us, there can come out obviously good things. I mean, they look good at least, but they're still done for themselves. That's why the first thing that Jesus had to tell Nicodemus, you need a new life. You need to be born again. Because in the old life, in which you're naturally born with this self-deception, you can never perceive the spiritual things. You will always misinterpret the Bible. And when Jesus told him and interpreted to him the Bible correctly, he still did not perceive it. It took 3 years. And when he saw Christ on the cross, when he saw the picture that Christ has made him, like Moses lifted up in the desert the cross, the snake, so the Son of Man will be lifted up. Then, when he saw the pictures, he was converted. And then he realized he needed a new life. He needed to die on the cross. And he needed to resurrect together with Jesus. You see, friends, there is a condition to understand the truth and the Word of God. And that condition is we need to be born again. If that is not changed, nothing changes. Even though religiously we might show up very well. When Jesus called Abraham out of his father's house, he called him out because he lived in a world of idolatry. In a world where all people know and think they're gods, and that's why they make themselves their God. Because if you're not a God, you don't make yourself a God. But that's how lies are contradicting in itself. It's terrible. So he lived and he called him out and said, I will make you the light of the earth and your descendants. In them I will bless all the nations on earth. That was his plan. And that was the plan when he brought them out of Egypt and promised them a good land. It was not for their own sake that he wanted to have a people for himself. No, God never thinks on himself. He did want a people, a nation. And he explains it in himself in Deuteronomy chapter 4. A nation that knows that is a child of God. A nation that is under God. That the whole world would look to it and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great who hath God so nigh unto them as the Lord our God is in all things that we call upon him for? Now, the idea and words, like I always say, are insufficient. Some might think when it's about a great nation, it might believe it's a great nation in numbers. Well, no. No. In chapter 7, he says to them, that not because, chapter 7, verse 7, the Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people. God doesn't need a great nation in numbers. He never needs that. He wishes that a lot of people might be saved, but he doesn't need numbers. His greatness does not consist in numbers, but his greatness consists in the greatness of the people consists. But because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, has the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. So, for what nation is there so great? And Luther translates it correctly. That's in the German. He doesn't say great nation, so that we might understand it might be a great nation in numbers, but he says a glorious nation. So a glorious nation, is that what it is meant here? And what nation is there so glorious that has statutes and judgments so righteous? Now, I'm not expert in languages, but I hope we understand. Yes, we can be a great nation in our character. If that you understand in English, that's fine. But in my first understanding, it would be great because of numbers. Because people like to be great in numbers, isn't it? So, but this is not God's idea. The people of Israel were a small nation. When they entered the promised land, yes, they have multiplied in the desert, but they still, compared to the nations that were living there, were less, and they would have destroyed them. They were the Enoch people, the giants. They would have no chance. But it was God who was with them. They were great because of their great God. They were glorious because their God was with them, and they could see that God is nigh unto them, who when they call on him, he answers. That's the nations don't know, because their gods don't answer. They might have ears, but they don't hear. They might have eyes, but they don't see. They can do nothing. So there had to be a lesson, a blessing for all those nations that were born into this deception, so that they might come to God. Because he did not want to make Israel great for the purpose that they should be great. He does not want anyone to be great for his own, because God is not great for his own. He always calls for a purpose. And yes, it must be something lightening in the midst of darkness that gets the attention of the people. It must be something totally different that arises their attention and say, surely this great nation is wise and understanding people. And what nation is there so great that has such statutes and judgments so righteous? What is there so great a nation who has God so nigh unto them? That was the purpose. It was not for them that they should inherit the godly land. It was that they should serve the purpose of bringing light into the world. We are at the end of this world, and the armies have gathered around, Satan has gathered them around himself against God for the final battle. And this final battle, we have seen, has started. And God has a small people. And when I say here Israel, I don't mean Israel as the nation in the Middle East or the Jewish people. No. The Bible says all those who are of faith are Abraham's children. They are Israel. All those who are Christ's are Israel because Christ is Israel. So all those who have a clean heart or are in the cleansing process, they are Israel. But in order to shine to the world the last time and to fulfill that promise to all the nations of the world, because it hasn't happened yet, that the small number should be a light and a blessing to all nations, it still needs to take place. In order for that to happen, this small number must be disconnected from Lucifer, from Satan. And this disconnection doesn't come by some people saying, I command to you, just go away or something like that. That's not the way the battle is fought. The battle is just fought inside of us. Because the connection is in us, not outside. It's not Lucifer who keeps us bound to himself, but us keeping us bound to him because of this inherited nature. That's why we need to crucify it. That's why we need to get rid of it. So the people who will be the light of the world in these days will those that through the sifting process in which we are will be cleansed inside of them. Because then when we are inside cleansed, when sinful nature is dead, and we have put the truth of God there that we are a children of God, every connection to Satan has stopped. And as that has stopped, we can become the light of the world. We can receive the Holy Spirit and bring to the world a light that has never been seen before. Because these people will be free agents, and I want to be among them, and I hope you too. They will have no connection to the devil anymore, like Jesus when he said, "This comes the ruler of this earth, and he findeth nothing in me." And then we will be a witness for those who are going to be lost. They will sign their condemnation by rejecting the most clear light that is given to them. And the others, the multitudes from here, will see the error in their hearts that keeps them connected to the devil. And they will cry out in despair like Paul, "O wretched man who I am, who will save me from this body of death?" And the moment they call the name of the Lord, they will be saved. And they will be added to the people. Yes, there will be multitudes that will be added in the last hour to the people. They will disconnect to the devil, not by opposing him outside of them, but by opposing him inside of them. This is what James means. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. It's not an outside resistance because the battle is in us. I resist the devil when I have nothing that binds me to him anymore. And then he will flee because then he knows no matter what he does, he will not succeed. And then he will go to save the others. They might not be yet there to to keep them in that lie. But finally, everyone will see that the devil was not right. In heaven, the angels who remained faithful, they remained reasonable, they did not believe the lies of the devil anymore. The unfallen worlds, when Satan crucified Christ, didn't believe the devil anymore. We as humans will disconnect completely from him, destroying our sinful nature. But even those who, at the end, by the final judgment, when God will show them everything why they get lost and why they were lost, when the devil then tries to make them to go against the city, they won't follow him anymore. And when the devil has lost his followers, he has lost the battle. Not by power, nor by might. Not by force, just by letting the evil come out. And by helping those who were born the wrong way to be born again, to have the right identity. And by this, they disconnect from him. Oh, how much I desire to have a clean heart that does not listen to any lie anymore, and that can understand always well and discern the spiritual things. Through God's grace, in these days, all people must make a final decision. And we, as the light of the world, must prove that when they take the decision to follow God, it will be a good decision. It will be a nice thing to be free. To not follow the deceptions of rulers, of the devil, but live as God has made us to live. The goodly land is waiting for us. It is prepared. Let us, by faith, already look beyond this last encounter and see us as victorious at the end.